In this lesson, let's talk about using tables within our HTML5 documents. When we first started building web pages, tables were an important component. We used them to create the layout of our web pages. So if you wanted images to appear next to text, or you wanted items to appear in a specific spot on your web page, that's what we used tables for, and they were very important in building early web pages. Now we use CSS, or cascading style sheets, to build our layouts and our formatting in, so we don't use tables for that anymore. Tables can still be very useful, and I want to give you a review of when to use them and when not to use them. So first of all, tables can be really important when you're trying to organize content. When you're displaying large amounts of data, such as a lot of numbers or percentages, things like that, that you want to put in columns and rows, that's when a table can be really useful. And for creating input forms, tables can still be used for that as well. When not to use tables? For laying out web pages, as I mentioned, you don't want the main structure of your pages to be created with tables. You want to build your pages with CSS, and then if you need to add a table here and there for structure of data, that's okay. Another thing to keep in mind is for search engine optimization, or SEO. If you're heavily into that, tables are not a good option for that. Tables have a lot of tags, and I'm going to show you more about that in just a few minutes. So it's really not a good idea to use tables, a lot of tables, if you're really looking for search engine optimization. What that means is that when you're searching for something in a browser such as Google, if I search for pet stores in San Jose and I get a listing of all the pet stores that come up, if I'm one of those pet store owners, obviously I want mine to be near the top of the list. If you're adding a lot of tables to your documents, it can slow things down and it can make your website appear lower on that list. So really not a good idea to use too many tables, and the more complex tables you use, the less successful your search engine optimization is going to be. Another thing to keep in mind is that for people who are using your web pages in a non-visual way, such as people who are vision impaired, if your website needs to be Section 508 compliant, then it's not a good idea to use a lot of tables because they're not really read very successfully in screen readers, which visually impaired people use to interpret the content of your pages. So those are just a few things to keep in mind. That being said, tables are still okay if you use them in small doses. So let's take a look at some of the tags that we use in tables. Now this is just an overview. So the main tag that we use is the table tag. So here you'll see I have a value and an attribute. So this particular table has a border of 1 pixel. You can set up your tables to not have any border at all if you like, but you can also go in here and add a border if you want. Here's my table head. So if I want a table header at the very top, I can indicate that, but I always have to end it. So notice that here's my table tag, and here's my end table tag. Here's my table head, and here's my end table head. And then I have a table row. So I have to end that table row. And then for the actual content of the table, we use the TD tag, which stands for table data. So this would be a column. Here I'm telling it to create a column, and here's the text in that column, and here I'm ending that column. Here's the second one, the text in that one, and here I'm ending that column. And then finally my third column and my data that's going into that one, and then I end that one as well. And then we also want to end the row, and then we end the table. This, believe it or not, is a very simple table. We can actually add other attributes to make it even more complex, such as captions, column groups, we can add footers, lots of different things that we can add, but this is just a quick basic overview of working with tables. Now let me take you out and show you what it looks like in Dreamweaver. I have a simple table set up here. I'm using my favorite HTML editor, which is Adobe Dreamweaver. You can also build this in straight code if you wanted to. So in here I've got my table set up, so you can see that here's my table tag. This particular one has a border of 1 pixel. This one has a width put in. Dreamweaver automatically puts the width in for me. So this is my table header. It says wood used in covered bridges. And then I have 2 rows and 3 columns. So I have several different types of wood listed in here, and you can see that my table has a 1 pixel border around all the cells. I also have gone in here in Dreamweaver. It allows me to go in here and grab. Notice this little icon that I'm seeing when I'm in between 2 columns. I can use this to actually go in here and make my table wider or narrower, and Dreamweaver automatically goes in and enters the width of all of my columns for me. So this is a very simple table that I have set up, but I just wanted to show you everything we just looked at in that other document in that PDF is here. So here is my table, here is my end table. I have a table row, I have an end table row right here, and then I have my table data and my end table data. So it's very easy to set this up in straight code, but you can also do it very easily in Dreamweaver as well. And that's just a quick overview of working with tables in HTML5.